Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood-turning tools. Made by a woodturner, for woodturners. Put my cheaters on here because I got dirty cheaters, because I have to make a really accurate line here in a second. But this is kind of like your own Christmas present at this point, is unwrapping this thing just to see how good of a job you did. And I haven't unhooked this one yet, so we'll see how good a job I did. There's another unwrapping stage in a minute. This could be fun. This is where, again, accuracy is so doggone important. We're going to take this and go from edge to edge. And if you notice, I'm using a small pencil, not a big fat one or a Sharpie, because I want a very accurate mark going from corner to corner. We want to find as close to the perfect center as possible on this, because we have to put it on the lathe perfectly centered. There we go. So to make sure I have that mark really good, I'm going to take, this is a spring-loaded punch, so you're going to hear it here as it goes in. So it makes a really nice deep mark. So we're going to wash, rinse, and repeat over here. And now you can actually see how well I matched up the edges. That's why cutting this to the right size makes putting this together so easy. Because I mean, imagine if you could make this block larger, but then try figuring out how you're going to center it by hand. I mean, that could be a nightmare. So I'd rather live with this shape and then get really creative and spend an hour in the glue-up process. I usually spend an hour in the cleanup process, and that's enough. So here we go from edge to edge again. And like I said, you can watch Ron's videos. He actually has a little different way of doing this. He does a side to side, and honestly, I couldn't figure it out, but it worked. The way he did it, it worked. So we're going to go right dead center again. Push, punch. Now we got a hole. So the next thing is we're going to mount this on the lathe, and I want to use, we're going to use our little, there goes my brain again. It's the one with the little spring tip in it. We're going to use that. Only because I'm not worried about putting a big hole in here. I just like using it for delicate stuff so it holds up well. And I can take these off, and I need a live center with a point. We put that in here. And let's see, we'll come over here, pull it over like so. And then we're going to mount this up. We're going to put it on here in that hole. We're going to bring this in, lock it down, and then right here we're going to just bring this in, that point into the hole. And as you get really close, you can just kind of wiggle it and feel it. See, it's in there now. It's not even touching. So we'll just lock that down. And then I'm going to start getting out some weapons, and we'll start turning this. And our weapon of choice today is a little bit different. The wonderful makers of our lathe, Robust, is now making their own handle. And it's really cool because it's wood and it's triangular. So when you're hanging onto it, it gives you a sense of reference as to where you are with the tip as you're turning it. The other thing is, see this big old ugly knob up here? It has a purpose. This is an interchangeable handle. So you can pull it, hang on a second. Yeah, there you go. You can put in any tool you want. Well, what if you have different size tools? Well, they sell different collets that go inside and holds different size tools. So it's really cool. You can adjust it anything you have. This is really handy if you want to travel someplace for a class and don't want to take a bunch of tools with you, or if you're out demonstrating to your club or something like that. You don't have to pack a lot, or if you're just frugal and only want to pay for a few handles. And they make them also in the large industrial size. And I'm kind of liking these. These aren't bad. I mean, obviously I seem to have a handle for every occasion as it is, so I don't really need this, but it is a really cool tool. And it's also lighter, but there is a plug on the end that you can actually take out and fill this with shot also. So it's kind of thought of everything. And as you notice, with the tool going inside the handle, you can actually store the tool in the handle with the point down, so you don't have any sharp ends if you're transporting your tools. That's a nice touch too. So let me get my eyes on here. And since we have this mounted on the lathe, if you look at this, you can see, okay, we got segments of wood, we got little pieces of plastic. If I came in here with a roughing gouge and hit this, not too good. You want a really sharp tool, and so I'm going to use a swept back spindle gouge, and so I'm going to have just a little bit of tool touching the wood as I go through this, so there's less impact and less jarring. This again is why I'm going to stand to the side in case anything flies off here. That looks good. You might want to wear a face mask for this, because if you do have a bad glue up job, it's going to go somewhere, and you don't want to go into your beautiful kisser. But anyway, you can use any tool you want, like I said, but as long as you have a small profile to come in here. So I'm going to get myself in a stance, almost like a roughing stance, but I'm going to get a bit of an angle and just start sweeping it until I touch. Just speed it a little more. There I am. And now I'm just going to shift my weight over to my left and come back and nibble. And the glue, so we have a combination of fiberglass glue holding the pieces in, and then we have Titebond 3 holding the wood to the wood. So we got a really strong setup here. Now I've got to duck under the camera a little bit and see where I am, because we're going to start coming into the this part of the blank too, and I'm going to narrow it down a bit. Now see, you're going to have a difference. That's going to be just edges. This is going to be thicker wood, so you got to watch that when you get over to this segment. And it's probably good to just kind of work this down as much as you can, but you're going to have to go back into the walnut occasionally, because it's going to start getting higher than the maple blank, or the maple glue-up kit here. Let's just stop it a second, and we'll see how this starts to evolve, by the way. So I'm almost rounded out, and look at the exposure distance right here. That's not too bad. That's pretty close. I think I nailed it. That's really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep shaping this a bit. I'm going to work this down a bit too, and I'm going to make a tenon on here, because we're going to reverse this in a minute to hold it on the lathe. But not for what you think. I'm going to do almost all the turning while I'm in this position. So we'll just come in here and move out some of this wood. Okay, it's getting closer. So I'm going to grab a caliper, and we're going to make a tenon that's the right size for my chuck jaws. So, if you notice on my chuck, I have two numbers on here. One is 2 inches, and then the one over here is 1.5, and it actually should be like 1 3/8, but I kind of cheated. This tells me the diameter of the tenon that this will grab onto, the minimum diameter. This tells me the minimum expansion or recess that this will expand into. I do that because then it's easy to come up here and grab my calipers, and instead of measuring this and opening and closing it, I'm just going to go for 1.5 right here and set this. So now when I go over to my lathe to make my tenon, I've already got the diameter I need. And you can see I'm pretty close to that already. So we'll go back to my favorite tool, which is my big old parting tool that I've put at an angle for my chuck jaws to match the tenons. So I'm just going to come in here like so. I'm eyeing this in because I'm pretty familiar with this diameter. We'll come up here and see how this fits. By the way, if you use a pair of calipers like this, make sure that you take them to the grinder and you take this tip right here and round it off. That way it won't dig into the wood while you're making a measurement. That's not a good thing. And I don't need a lot of strength for this hold because we're not going to do much once we turn this around. See where I am now? Ah, I am perfect. That is good. Okay, now we're going to move on to having the fun of making the shape of the Christmas ornament. Now we're just making a bead. And the thing to keep in mind, let me show this to you. Ron told me, he said, don't make it round like he did on this one. And I can see why. You can see how the star in a couple spots is going off. It's being cut off. So this one, he said, lends itself to more of an oval shape. And the one I made was beautiful. It's just that my wife has it with her at work right now. She forgot we were going to be shooting this, and she took it with her to show off to her friends. So we'll make another oval here just to show you how it works. So I'm going to try to preserve as much of the top of this blank as I can as I come in. So let's see, I'm going to do a weird cut here. I'm going to kind of slide my body because I just want to get a little bit of a curve going in the middle. And it's weird too when you feel that you're cutting plastic, right? So it's going to have a different texture when you hit the plastic. than from the wood. So it's good, like I said, it's gonna be interesting. You're gonna feel different resistance with your tool. There we go, I'm gonna come down to about there. I'm gonna stop this real quick, and let's see how our shape is going. Okay, now you see we're getting the reveal. You can also see how it's a little jaggedy, so if I don't get my curve just right, it'll show it too. The idea is to get as much exposure here of the wood as you have down here. So we're gonna turn it back on. I'm gonna keep whittling at this. We'll see how quickly I can do it. It doesn't take that long, but you don't wanna get in a big rush because that's when you make mistakes. And if you take big cuts on this, I actually don't think I'm gonna tear any of the plastic out because that fiberglass resin really is nice. But you do have to be mindful that as you see the white disappear and you go into the brown, that you need that same exposure over here. But you have green plastic pieces and this right here is yellow, so you might want to stop your lathe occasionally just to make sure everything's good. So stop this. I wonder if he makes these with Easter eggs. I know he makes lots of different designs, so you could actually have a bunny on here and this will make a perfect egg. I'll have to suggest that to him. That's looking darn good right there. I'm going to smooth it out just a little bit more and clear out some wood here. And let's see, I'll come in like so. Because I don't have to have a lot of strength here, because really the next step we're doing on reversing this is we're just drilling a hole. That's not that difficult, but I wanted to show you the setup for it. Okay, so now you can start rubbing your bevel and getting a prettier and prettier look. Let's see here. I'm ducking under the camera again, so my style is a little unorthodox. Just fine shavings going here. That's looking good. Now we're going to come back here. The nice thing is about making this an oval shape, almost an egg shape, is you can be a little creative with the shape of the egg as opposed to trying to do a perfect sphere, because then you have to be perfect, because people know what something round looks like. But if it's oval, it can be any oval you want, just as long as you make the top and the bottom match up so you get the same reveal on the piece is the important thing. So get the bevel rubbing again here, and I'm going to advance that in just a little quicker. And let's see how this looks now. We're doing pretty good. I like it. So I'm happy with that. So the next step really, and I'm not going to bore you with it, is to sand this, take a little more wood off here, and put any finish you want on here. Ron used a cyanoacrylate finish, which is really nice and shiny, but you can use whatever you like. And then we will turn it around, and once I do that, I will show you then how you make the holes to hold the finials on. Tweak it just a bit more here. One last cut. So I've loaded a Jacob's chuck into my tailstock, which is basically a drill bit holder with a Morse taper that goes in here. And then I have a 7/16 inch drill bit here. So the whole idea is we're going to turn the lathe on, and we're going to turn the speed down to about 500 RPM. You don't want it going very fast when you do drilling like this. And we're just going to advance this in by turning the handle on the tailstock. Now this is always a point where this starts screeching and it screws up all our audio. So if it starts getting into screech mode, I will stop talking. But let me stop it because, see, on the backing out is when you get the biggest screech. So if you don't want to hurt your ears, go in a bit, clean that out, turn it back on, and go back in. Now the deal is we're going to drill all the way through the bottom here. Ah, that's wonderful. We should make that into an alarm. But what I've done, let me show you here. This is 7/16, right? So I made this tenon slightly larger than 7/16 so I can drill through. But then we're going to part it off right there. And so we can trim this off. Still, we have enough strength to trim that off with a spindle gouge and then to part that off over there. And once we have this off the lathe, I'll show you how some of these things are put together. So here's the ball. I passed up on the sanding and stuff. I was having too much fun turning. But how do you assemble this? Well, you can see Ron does a mean set of finials, so I'm not even going to compete with him. Now the ones I did for mine are awesome. If they were here, I would show them to you. But the main trick you got to understand is, especially when you're going oval because it's got more of a point, when you do this cap, make sure you cut up underneath it and put a dome inside the cap so the outer edges sit flush. and make your tenon, 7/16 or whatever drill bit you use. Then same thing on the bottom here. See this little wide space? That's why you got to make the cap that wide to cover the part that you cut off that's not finished. And again, it's got a dome over it. It's got a curve, so you got to undercut the finial to do that. But anyway, this is how you make an ornament from a laser cut kit. And it's from Ron Brown, Ron Brown's Best. And I gotta admit you, he does some good stuff and he's got some really neat products. So anyway, enjoy this one. I hope you have fun with it, and happy holidays. Keep turning.
Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood turning tools. Made by a wood turner for wood turners.